next speaker, QuHarrison Terry, is like one of the world's most renowned growth speakers, growth hackers. He's working with Cuban companies, advising a lot of the high-growth, highly successful startups. He has been delivering speeches at South by Southwest, TEDx, and many, many others. He's been featured in media such as like Huffington Post and all over the place. And he has been one of the world's leading experts in anything like NFT, blockchain, and a lot of the future of internet technologies that he's like early dabbled in. And he's going to talk about a topic that many of us, I'm sure, are deeply passionate about. And he's going to answer the question why the internet is going to evolve into the Metaverse. Please all give a warm welcome to QuHarrison. Come on, guys.
Yo, what up, what up? Texylvania. We're in Romania today. That's the energy I get? Come on, we gotta turn it up. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm QuHarrison Terry, as many of you know, and today I'm gonna have some fun because we're gonna be talking about the Metaverse. How many in here have heard about the Metaverse? I just want a brief. Oh, wow. All right, we're gonna have a long journey. I can't see the people that's rocking with us online, but I'm sure they've heard about the Metaverse because they're in the very first version of the Metaverse, which is the internet. And the people that are just joining me today, you might know me as a future thinker. I write a ton on the future of technology and how it's changing our lives. Last year, we were at Texylvania, and we talked about this book, the NFT Handbook. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Metaverse, and as you probably can guess, we've got the Metaverse Handbook. If you don't know me from my emerging technology theories and just the concept that I put out there, you probably know me as a growth marketer at Cuban companies. I've been doing marketing for about 13 years, and we've done some incredible campaigns with some of the world's greatest brands. So, my next thesis is on this book that I just described. It's called The Metaverse Handbook. It's written by myself, DJ Ski, who's a prominent Metaverse creator, and the foreword's by Paris Hilton. If you're interested in anything that I'm going to be talking about today, you're going to love this book. In the book, I talk about just 150 different case studies on what the Metaverse could look like. I really dive in deep on a lot of the actual creators that are building Metaverse experiences. And I'm going to talk about, kind of today, a preview of this book, which is what is the Metaverse and how does it impact our lives? So the first thesis I have on the Metaverse is that the internet is evolving into the Metaverse. Today, we all participate in the internet in many magnitudes. We have mobile phones, we have laptops, we have smartwatches, there's so many things. But those devices, when we look at it in the Metaverse concepts, is creating what we are now referring to as the spatial web. And the way I like to think of the spatial web is it's the immersive internet. By that I mean we are going into this future where the last 10 years, we've seen companies like Google and Apple and Samsung provide not only smart computers, but they've put computers in refrigerators, our cars, our TVs, our smartwatches, and many other devices. Many of us at home have smart speakers or digital assistants that help rule our day. But when you bring those devices together, you oftentimes have to check a million different things. I think that in one version of the Metaverse, we're not going to have to check many different devices. When you go and get in another car, when you go to someone else's home, or you go to school, or you go to work, your ecosystem will just work, very similar to how it works online with accounts. And what's fascinating about this is it's also happening simultaneously in the real world, but also online. So when we look at the bots, how many people in here are familiar with bots? I know a lot of people are, okay. So the way I think about the Metaverse is, what if we could interact with bots in the same way we interact with our actual devices, our smartphones, our laptops, our computers? Well, we're seeing that happen. Little Michaela is a digital influencer. She has over millions of followers on Instagram and other social networks. She's topped the charts of Spotify, released all these music. And the funny thing about little Michaela is she's not real. She's a virtual influencer. You might as well call her a bot, because that's literally what it is. If you communicate with little Michaela, you're very much in a similar regard talking to a bot. But in the metaverse, my thesis for it is that we're going to have this place where you're going to be able to interact with the digital world in the same way that we can interact with the physical world. And we're not there yet, but the innovators in this room, online, we're at the precipice where we can start to think about what these experiences could look like. And with little Michaela, you see this here. She's in a photo with real people, and there's even storylines where little Michaela is like falling in love with real humans. We've seen glimpses of that in movies, such as Her, that came out a few years ago. But what I think about is, like, we're here. Like, a lot of this sounded like science fiction, 15 years ago, but this is actually a real example. And so when I think about the metaverse and I think about the spatial web or the immersive internet, a lot of it to me is like, we're going to see some of the realities that we've seen in real life manifest in ways that we can barely even envision. Going on beyond little Michaela, because I think that's a very out there example, I want to talk about Krista Kim. So, has anyone in here, you guys are keeping up with me, but anybody in here know about Krista Kim? All right, great. I got a story for you. So Krista Kim's an artist, and a few years back, she had this idea of starting to take her art offline. And what I mean by that is she's saying, okay, if I make art in the real world and I then, take this offline art and bring it into the online space, I don't want to just do a CAD drawing. I want to be able to sell like a very minimalist and beautiful home digitally for the same price that I could sell a house for in real life physically. And at the time, it sounded a little crazy. Like, if I told you you would buy a digital home for $500,000, I don't think a lot of people in this room would be vying for that or rocking with it. And what happened is, in 2021, so last year, she did just that. And she's done a few other installations in Times Square and a few other places. But it's designers like Krista Kim that are saying, hey, we can go out there and we can change not only our reality, but we can create new spaces for people that they can live in and manifest and cultivate these new ideas of what the future could look like. Well, those are what the builders of today and what the metaverse will look like going forward. And I really think Krista Kim is one of the strong examples of what a interest geek is, because what she did is she took an interest in architecture and art, and she looked at this canvas known as the metaverse, and she started to develop a thesis. And I don't think that this is going to be her last foray. Some people might say it's a gimmick. It's only a gimmick if you stop. If you keep developing and you keep building, you have to start somewhere. How many developers do I have in this room today? A lot. How many developers actually started their first line of code with the hello world sequence? Exactly. We all started there. Hello world. It's like encoded in all of us when we start the program. It's like when we get that first computer print on the screen because we've told it to do that. That's what the metaverse experiences today look like. There are hello world projects, but in different domains and different interests. Now, you might be wondering, why should I care about the metaverse? And this is a question that I get a lot. I get this question all the time. And it really started to manifest last year after Mark Zuckerberg decided to change the name of Facebook into Meta. Who all saw that change? Just about everybody. You use WhatsApp, you saw the change from Facebook to Meta. And then you start to think about, okay, if this is a big enough endeavor for Mark Zuckerberg to go out and say, let me change my company name and go into this domain known as the Metaverse, what opportunity is there? Well, I haven't talked to Mark, but I can kind of glean what he's going for. In the real world, we have this thing known as scarcity. It drives just about all of the value that we see from our identity to our status to society. Like everything is really deemed off of the whole concept of scarcity. When you enter the digital world, scarcity changes quite a bit. If I go back 2 decades and I wanted to make something scarce digitally, it probably wasn't going to be in any form or shape or fashion where a smart enough programmer couldn't create a digital duplicate. What the blockchain enabled us to do is to create immutable copies of digital, or not even, yeah, I guess, immutable copies of digital assets. So you now have this database where you can have digital scarcity. And today it's been utilized just for purely financial transactions. We're starting to see the impact that it can have when you take, a blockchain and apply it to art. We saw it with NFTs. And in that, when you go beyond NFTs and you start to think, what else could digital scarcity really promote? And you start to think about the world. And a lot of people read the book or seen the movie Ready Player One, or they've read the book Snow Crash, and they think about this world where we kind of go into this oasis, and it's a virtual city where we start to think about, what are we going to eat, and what are we going to wear, and what are we going to do, and play these games, and all of these different endeavors. I don't think that that's really the crux of the metaverse. The crux of the metaverse is, for the first time ever, we now have digital scarcity, and we have a community where we can cultivate that digital scarcity. And I think when you look at what Meta is doing, and when I say Meta, I mean Facebook, or formerly Facebook, they're seeing that same thing. They're saying that if billions of people gather in these metaverse environments, there's a lot of revenue there. Because if you create once-in-a-lifetime moments or limited or scarce digital assets, what happens is people will spend money on that in the same way that they might go and buy a car or buy a fancy watch or go buy a very expensive computer. I mean, I know when a new computer comes out from Apple, it's quite a hefty investment, and I'm one of the first people in line to go and try and get one of those things. The same thing is going to happen in the metaverse, but it's going to be for different domains and for different reasons. I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow, but we as developers, we as builders, get a chance to go out there and see what's on the forefront and the horizon, and we get to pick and say, hey, I want to go here, or hey, I want to go back there, or hey, I don't want to participate in this at all. So there were some builders that did just that. There was this company called Artifact. They're about 2 years old, give or take, and they said, we're going to sell digital sneakers. The picture that you see above is a A16Z digital sneaker that they made. It was a limited edition. And when I see this shoe, I'm like, all right, digital sneakers. I don't think I would ever, pay that much money for digital sneakers. But, even I'm like tripping on the words because the concept is a little foreign. Like, you're buying digital shoes that you can't wear. But Nike saw something promising in this company. They saw the ability to actually enter the metaverse, because what did Artifact do? Artifact said, hey, there is a community of sneakerheads that exist in the real world, and their interest won't wane if we go into a digital world. We're just going to have to show them, how do you participate and how do you exchange value in this new world? NFTs happened to be all the craze when Artifact dropped, so it was almost about being in the right place at the right time. But the cool thing about Artifact is they sold to Nike for what is rumored to be over $1 billion. You heard that right. A company that said, we're going to sell digital sneakers on the internet, got bought by one of the largest shoe companies in the world for almost $1 billion. That's absurd. They were only 2 years old. And the funny thing about it is, all of us in this room can just about participate in this moment that I'm calling the metaverse, because this is the hello world moment. The same way that every developer starts off and says, all right, how am I going to learn this syntax? I'm going to go ahead and put my first command in, and I'm going to print hello world. It's the same way a lot of developers and builders and innovators are thinking about the metaverse today. They're using the same tools, whether it be Facebook Horizon, VR Chat, Decentraland, or the next metaverse platform to arrive tomorrow, because there's a new one every day. And everyone's at the same starting line. What you have to do is you have to think about what are you interested in, or what do you think general people are interested in, and how could you apply that to this new technology? I'm not alone in my thinking. Obviously, Mark Zuckerberg, one of the richest people on the planet, is going towards this direction, and he just started back in October. You have Walt Disney, the company, appointing a chief metaverse officer. I mean, when I think about that, I'm like, wow, Disney, this massive behemoth brand that has changed pretty much everyone's life in some shape or form or fashion, is thinking about the metaverse in such a way that they added a new chief executive to their staff and team. And they're betting that this is going to be a 10 to 20-year horizon play, but it's going to be one that they want to be on the forefront of and be a leading voice in. And they're one of the world's best storytellers. So I want to just recap one thing. When it comes to the metaverse, the way I think about it is that the metaverse is evolving the internet. It's the next evolution of the internet. If we all participate in the internet and we don't want to get left behind, today is the day to start thinking about the metaverse and what that spatial environment looks like. For the people that want to learn more, I wrote a book. It's called The Metaverse Handbook. I'll be giving away some copies in my session, my Q&A session right after this. So if you're looking to get the book or get your own copy of the book, just find me after this session and we'll get into it. And if you want to, too, you can continue the conversation and see some of my studies and journeys on social media. My username is @QuHarrison. I recommend everyone check it out. And beyond that, thank you. I'll catch you all in the metaverse.